I'm gonna show you how I turn this into this.
So now it's time to throw all of this onto here. So we have the wheel to put on, we have the handlebars, BMX handlebars, controller, mud flap, got the wheel. As you can see, I've already got the pegs mounted and the battery mount mounted, and then we've just got all these little prickly parts to put on. Starting with forks, let's go. So what we need to start with by getting these front forks on is we need to put this bottom bearing on. So we've got that on. Put this bike on. Well, this bike frame. That's nice and tight. Then we need a other bearing, a little plastic piece, and that all should sit nice. Put this in, well, on. Make sure it's pulled all the way through.
Now this is where I had to figure out how many spaces I needed to put the handlebar mount on, and after figuring out I needed 3 spaces, I could fit the handlebar mount.
This has definitely got to do it. 100%. Let's make sure it's nice and straight before I tighten it all up. Oh, has it worked? To be honest with you, I don't really know. Looks like it's worked. So let's get handlebars on. Flick that round, get his BMX handlebars on. Now let's get his trusty Allen keys. The reason why I had to go get a new mount is because the handlebars, these new ones, won't fit in the old mount. So that's the reason why the bike build has been taking so long to come out. Having to try source all these parts has not been easy for this bike. I believe now that is done. Let's go. Now let's get this seat on. To get the seat back on bike, we just need to put it back on pole and then put it back in there. So slide that in. If you want to see, look, can you see there's just an hole there? So the small part of the pipe just slides in, and then you've just got these 2 nuts to tighten. So now let's slide this right down there. Make sure it's at a decent height. Don't look too bad, that. Let's get that tightened up. That seat's not going nowhere now. Let's get the front wheel on. So to put the front wheel back on, all we need to do is slide it straight down and tighten these 2 bolts. Easy as that. Now let's move on to back one. So before we put the back wheel on, we have to make some minor adjustments first. You have a look on there. There's just a plastic cap. So we have to take these Allen keys out, take all this off, feed this off, and then put his disc brake on. So let's get doing that. So I got told, if you're ever making an electric bike, make sure you always take this plastic cap off, because you could put it all on and have to take it all back off just to take that off. So make sure you take that off. Now let's fit this nice shiny disc brake. See, now this is where you have to be careful, because these are what come on the bike, well, on the wheel, and these are what come with the disc brake. You see the size difference? So sometimes if you put the long one in, you can put it too far in and knock the motor. So I think we're just gonna go with these ones, and if it don't hold, we'll put them in. Let's see. Seems to be nice and tight. So now let's get these washers back on. So now we've got all the washers back on. Let's put the inner tube and then the tyre on. Starting with tyre, because if you put the inner tube on first, the tyre's harder to get on. Then put inner tube in, and see what I do is, I put the dust cap on so you don't lose the end. Oh yeah, look at a shiny new dust cap. Yeah. Now let's get it on back at bike. Now to put this back wheel on, it should be just as easy as sliding it in there and tightening these bolts. But with these electric builds, it's never that easy. Trust me.
What I am doing here is making sure there's spaces on each side of the wheel to stop the wheel hitting the frame, and after a long time I found out it needs 3 spacers on one side and 2 spacers on the other side, and then I fitted the torque arms on each side of the wheel.
Now let's pump the tyre up.
Now I'm fitting the display, and now the brake, then the grip, and on the other side I fitted just the throttle.
Right, now before we put the brakes back on, these Shimano brakes, we need to put some pads in. So the easiest way to put pads in, get a spanner. You see these here? These pistons. Push them open as wide as they can go, or as wide as you can get them. Just like that, as wide as you can make them. You should be able to just push your pads right up and in, just as easy as that. Then get your pin all the way through, make sure it's all in line, and then we need to bend these. So let's bend them, and then the piston won't go on, and the brake won't go nowhere. Now the brake pads are in and that's been bent over. Time to put the bracket on the brakes and then fit it to the bike. Make sure this bracket's nice and tight. Don't want my brakes flying off. Right, now that's nice and tight. We need to try fit it, but we need to make sure that the brake pad doesn't rub, or this disc brake doesn't rub on these brake pads while it's running.
When I was trying to fit the brake, the pads were rubbing on the disc, so I had to change the disc and put loads of washers on the bracket, and then there was no more rubbing. I fitted the controller using zip ties, and then started by plugging the display in, and then the throttle, and now the wheel, and made sure it was all working.
Let's go! Come on! Now we've got the bike fully up and running, finally. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and peace out.